to be a professional guitarist? Now that's a question that somebody just posed in the comment section of my video. And like I said, the comment section in my channel is just a treasure trove, because there's so many people out there that have great ideas. And I thank the guy that posed me this question, because it got me to thinking. And when you get me to thinking, I instantly have a video at hand. And these are non-scripted. These are just me speaking to the camera. But that's a very interesting question. How good do you have to be a professional guitarist? And man, I've seen all skill levels of guitarists that, were able to make a living playing music. And I've played with guys with all different kinds of skill levels. I generally played in bands where I was the only guitar player, and there would usually be a keyboard player, and there'd, sometimes be horns, and sometimes there'd be, multiple singers and stuff like that. If you're the only guitar player in a band, and it's a band that plays a lot of different styles of music, then you got to be pretty damn good. You're gonna need to be able to learn, parts and things very quickly. Here's the thing: once you've played in a band or a circuit where there's certain types of bands, once you've been in that circuit for a while, you're going to learn the songs that they call. Every singer has favorite songs. Every singer has styles that they like to sing. And once you find a singer and you're working with the singer, you're going to learn what they like to sing and the songs that they want and how they want it played. And you're going to figure that out. So the important thing to be able to do is to be able to learn guitar parts, learn, the style of that singer, and be able to back that singer in the way that he wants to be backed. And, that's going to depend. That's going to depend on the type of songs recorded. If you're backing a rock singer and, he just plays classic rock songs, then you're just going to need to have a vocabulary of classic rock style playing. And so how good you have to be is you have to be able to play, all the classic rock stuff, or in that style, in that genre, in some cases, learning solos note for note. There's some iconic solos, like stuff, some of the stuff by Neil Sean and different guys, or Jimmy Page, that are just so iconic. It pays to be able to play the solo on the record, and people are going to want to hear that. But look, I know rock guitar players that don't know any jazz chords or 7 chords, whether it's major 7 or altered chords or any of that kind of jazz garden variety stuff. But I would urge you, if you are going to be a professional guitarist, learn those chord voicings, because you never know when you end up having to play something like that. You could have a special guest coming to play a gig. And man, this happened to me out on the road. We used to do gigs where we would back a bunch of different artists, on the gig. And it was all basically country guys. But one of the country guys wanted to play a song that was, I think it was called Nightlife. And it was B.B. King and Willie Nelson, I think, version of that song. And it was then that I learned that the other guitar player in the band, he didn't know any jazz chords. And I think I haven't heard the song in a while, and we played it once that night, and that was it. But basically, I was on chord duty during that song because he had never played chord changes like that. So, there's country guys that don't know. If you just know 90s country, Brent Mason, intros and licks and stuff like that, you might not have a jazz vocabulary. Now, Brent Mason, on the other hand, could play in that genre if he was required to do so. He is a closet jazz guitar player. So, while you can get by with just knowing your major and minor chords and maybe a dominant seven, yeah, you could probably get by being a professional guitar player. Only knowing that, I would recommend that you learn as much as you can. Now, look, if you want to be one of those guys that does, solo or duo shows or fronts a band and plays acoustic guitar and strums, chords, you could certainly probably get by with only playing cowboy chords. And what do I mean by cowboy chords? G, C, D, E, A, maybe F. And just knowing, basic chords, and then moving a capo around. There's certainly a ton of guys that's all they know on guitar. There's plenty of songwriters in Nashville that's all they know. They only know those basic cowboy chords, and they slap a capo on their neck of their guitar. And if they want it to sound different, or if they want it to refresh, because look, man, for me personally, writing G, C, D, E minor, or 1, 6, 4, 5 in G or whatever, it's tough to make it sound fresh. Unless I'm just given the reins of, hey, just play guitar. But if I was going to try to write something, I generally wouldn't just start going with cowboy chords, and then that will be a whole different topic on the difference between, Nashville songwriting and LA. And I think I've talked about that some on my channel, but there's a big difference between guys that write riffs and write original riff ideas, and then the guys that play only cowboy chords and write a song. It's different songwriting techniques, and that's two different levels of guitar playing. The guy that can write riffs already knows how to play cowboy chords. The guy that can write riffs, he probably can play lead guitar, but the guy that only plays cowboy chords, he could know 100 songs. And this is an important part of being a guitar player. If you know a lot of songs, it's going to help you get work. Because if you can already, look, it is very hard if somebody, I've talked about this in a previous video, having to learn 40 songs in a day or 2 days. How do you do that? If you're a pro guitar player, you should be able to do that. And look, man, I've had guys and other guys in the comments say, I've been spending, 6 months trying to learn Little Wing and all this. And, man, that's, I can't imagine it taking that long because, even if you're trying to learn every single lick, and I would say, look, man, you're going to have to learn as a guitar player to play things their own way. When I was coming up, I listened to multiple Hendrix live albums and started noticing, hey, man, when it comes time to solos or this and that, a lot of times he would just improvise and learn to play within the framework of the style, but be able to add your own thing to it. There are some songs, we would play in Nashville where I would play, a solo that would maybe be something off the record. But then there's other times where you would play a song that you've played literally a million times. And the solo would just be a chance to stretch, just to man, let's stretch it out. It keeps it fresh, keeps you on edge, having to play an improvised solo. And look, if you're going to be that level, you're going to be a gunslinger guitar player, you should be able to play an off-the-cuff solo over anything. Because you never know when somebody's going to throw you a solo. And every now and then there'd be a song where I would get thrown a solo and be like, man, I'm not sure what to play over this. I know the chords are, obvious, and I'd try the jazz approach, and every now and then there'd be a tune that would kind of stump me, and I'd have to go home and let me figure out something better that's going on there. Or it'd be one where you just wave it off. There'd be sometimes, man, let's say they call something a jazz song out of the Real Book. And the Real Book was a book back in the day full of jazz standards and, varying degrees of difficulty. Every now and then there's a tune that's really got, some really kind of bizarre chord changes and stuff like that. And if you've never soloed over it, it could be challenging. It could be challenging. Now, you could certainly take a stab at it if it's different levels of playing guitar. Being able to play over a jazz song, that's a whole nother level. But look, you could be just the guy that knows cowboy chords and knows 100 songs, and you could go get a gig right now. And saying, what does it take to be a professional guitar player? Well, I think the bottom line is you will have to be able to play songs. You will have to know songs. You can't spend your whole life, staring at a piece of sheet music. If it's taken you, 6 months to learn Little Wing, I wonder, why is it taking so long? But, look, people are at different levels, and people may be trying to nail every nuance of the recorded version of Hendrix's Little Wing or the recorded version of Stevie Ray Vaughan. And if you're trying to do that and not able to put your own 2 cents in, then I guess you could spend 6 to 12 months, doing that. But man, professional guitar player doesn't have time to do that. And most really good players are going to be able to hear something go and pick up, maybe getting pretty gosh darn close to the recorded version, very quickly, picking up things, hearing things. And I think that just comes from experience. Nobody ever thinks that they can learn 40 songs overnight until you're faced with, I've got a chance here to pay my rent this month. And if I learn these 40 songs, I get the gig and I'm making, blah, 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 a week, whatever that could be. Back in the day, I think my first time I had to learn 40 songs in a couple days. I was, 18 or 19 years old, and it was all stuff like Journey and Sledgehammer, Peter Gabriel, and what else? We were doing some Zeppelin, and we were doing just all the top 40 rock of the time. And so I had to learn it all very, very quickly. But look, man, my life depended on it. My life depended on me learning those songs, and I was full of energy back then and willing to play, and that was a style of music that I enjoyed. It was not laborious, having to learn those songs. But man, you got to spend the time. You have to have the time to do that. And I just recently got an offer to go do a country gig down here in Florida, and I just the thought of playing those songs and in a format where the band was just play it right down the middle. I just couldn't bring myself to spend the time to do that for $100 or whatever it was. But man, look, if you're dependent on that, you're going to find a way to do it. And it's going to improve your playing, learning parts, learning other people's stuff. And the more you do it, the faster you'll get at it, to where now I wouldn't even really flinch if I knew I had 2 days and I didn't have family obligations and I was a young guy. I wouldn't even flinch at learning 40 songs in 2 days. And let me give you some tips, okay? And I've talked about this before on my channel, but here's my old backup phone. And I've got an app in here called iReel, right? These days, my last, period of time in Nashville, there'd be gigs on the weekends where I'd have to learn 3 songs or I'd have to learn 2 songs. And, if the song was challenging, like, look, this is an app. It's called iReel, right? And I'm going to put in, let's see, after the love has gone. Now that is a song, if you could see, that is a song with a lot of chord changes. How good do you have to be as a guitar player? Well, if you're going to have to play songs like this, you're going to have to be able to read a chord chart like this and read it down. What if you had to read this down on the spot? This is something that I've had to do on gigs. And I would say this is a fairly advanced level of playing. And I'm thankful that they have this app now, because there were times where this song would get called on a gig and I didn't have this app, and it would get called on the spot. And I would have to, I'd go, what key? And I'd get a key from them and I'd have to try to listen and try to play these chord changes, which is very, very hard. So I was just, I was basically just following along as best I could. But once this app, this iReel app, and, once this app, and I'll show you what the app looks like. There's the little iReel icon there. And you touch that app and it's got songs. You can do a search. So when I would get, an email about a gig and, hey, we got to play this song or whatever. Well, the first thing that I would do is go in iReel and see if somebody has already done the work and posted it up on iReel. And if they had, then I would instantly have a chord chart. So then I could just play the song on YouTube, play along with the chord chart. And if there's parts in there, guitar parts, I would know by the chord changes, okay, there's the part and it's E major 7 and he plays this little E major 7, lick here or this and that, and would help me to learn it super fast. The other thing that you can do if you don't have iReel is I would just go on, look, you could sit there with a piece of paper and chart out the chords and do all that. But that does take time. And imagine you've got 40 songs to learn. So, man, you're going to take every shortcut you can. And if pulling them up on iReel gives you those chord changes without you having to figure them out and write them out. Some people have great ears and they can just immediately write out a complex chord chart like that. It would take me longer to do that because, I don't have as much ear training experience. So I'd have to find the first chord and then start to hear the chord changes as they go. But sometimes there's interesting voicings that are not just garden variety chords that you have to figure out. Sometimes you've got to, if it's a guitar extensive thing, maybe the guy's playing really unique voicings. And you've got to figure them out, hear each note in the chord and figure out, I'm hearing a high E here, I'm hearing this, I'm hearing that, and put it together and figure it out. There's different levels, but having iReel or going online and doing a search, I would put the song title in Google and put chords after it. And boom, I'd hit click. And sometimes there's these little, and they're not like real chord charts like this. They're just like the lyrics with the chord written over it. And sometimes they're completely wrong or they're in a different key. Sometimes you get one that's right. And that's another way that I could get just the basic chords down, sort of an outline, and I would even print it. I would put it on my phone or my iPad or whatever I was going to take on the gig to use to cheat on, some of the lesser known songs. And I would basically have that, on my phone. And if I need to write in some notes or change a chord or two, because sometimes, man, they got everything right, but they wrote the wrong chord here. I would put the correct chord in, but that would save me a ton of time. And some of these modern songs that you might have to learn, they might not have any guitar in it. So if you've got the chord changes down, then you know the song, because then you just got to play and stay out of the way of the singer and the keyboard player and everything else that's going on, and just play a nice little part that blends in with everybody. So how good do you have to be? It depends on what level you want to play at. And, you could certainly get by with not knowing how to play jazz. You could certainly get by with only knowing cowboy chords, but you're only going to go so far and only be able to do a certain thing. If you want to be a hired gun, a guy that can plug in and play, with groups and do sessions and stuff like that, you're going to need to know how to read a number chart. And, I can't say that I mastered number charts. For me, I always like the good old fashioned, actual chord chart with the voicings kind of fully written out. And look, in Nashville, it'll just be 1, 6 minor, or 1 or 6. They won't even put the minor symbol because they figure, the 6th chord is minor in the major key. And then sometimes like if a song is minor, right, the way they write it in Nashville is they'll write it as a 6 chord, or they'll write it as the 3 chord or the 2 chord. And but I'll be hearing the song and go, no, this song is minor. And the way that I'm going to approach it is from the chord being, and from a jazz perspective, the song is in A minor. The song is not in C major, and so they would write it as 6 this and this that. And I would just, for me to understand what was going on as far as the flavor of the song, I would just write above the 1. A minor, and write the changes that way, because from a jazz player's perspective, I'm going to be thinking about those chord changes. I'm not going to be thinking about playing in C major, in this A minor thing. I'm going to be thinking about playing in A minor. But, there's different levels of that. As far as the, chord number chart, I know the numbers. I know if I'm in, C, that A is the 6, and F is the 4, and the 5 is G, and all that. And so you need to know those things. You need to know, the chords in a major scale and the numbers that are associated with that. And you need to know some rhythmic notation, because they will put some rhythmic notation on it. And, it helps if you can read music, but I never was an expert at reading notes on a page. And Nashville is a town where you could get by with never having to do that, but you need to have an understanding of the different notes and the different note lengths, and be able to play. I mean, look, there's guys like Stevie Ray Vaughan who said he didn't even know what keys he was playing in. I don't know if that's true or not, but you could be varying levels of a player and be a professional player. You could be the cowboy chord guy. You could be the jazz guy. You could be the top 40 guy. You could be the hired gun who plays a little bit of everything. It really depends on what you want to do and how far you want to take it. But it's a very interesting question. How good do you have to be a professional guitarist?